Hello and welcome to the Booksplosion live show for The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I'm Christine.
I'm Jesse.
I'm Kat. And we're Booksplosion.
And we're Booksplosion. Today we're discussing The Dead Romantics, like we said, by Ashley Poston. If you don't know, this book is about a ghostwriter, and her family is they own a funeral home, and she starts how do I talk about this without spoilers? She's late for her deadline. She's going to her editor to ask for an extension, and it's supposed to be due already, and there's already been 3 extensions, and she didn't just get out, but she got out of a relationship that she thought was really going to be it for her, and now she doesn't believe in love anymore. She can't end the book because she can't figure out the perfect happy ending. And so she keeps asking for extensions. And then she meets her new editor, and he's really hot. And she has to go home for basically he gets hit by a car and he's dead, and she can see ghosts. She's a ghost writer who can see ghosts. And
Spoilers!
then we go from there. This isn't a spoiler. This is the plot. So she's a ghost, and she can talk to him and see him.
I'm pretty sure when Kat said this description, you were like, spoilers, spoilers!
Well, everyone wants to know those things except me.
I mean, that is the basic premise, is ghostwriter meets her new editor, he gets hit by a car, and she spends the rest of the book talking to his ghost. But also something that happens early on, which is definitely in the synopsis.
Wait, no, it's a spoiler.
It's definitely in the synopsis.
Go ahead. You can go ahead and say it.
A family member passes away. And
don't tell him.
It's part of the book. A family member passes away, so she goes home. She works in New York, but she goes home to her small Northern Carolina town, and she's dealing with the funeral and also her dead editor.
I love
that.
It's a very major part of the book. You can't not mention it, because her dealing with the grief and the funeral is a major plot line. It's not a spoiler, it's a major plot.
I cried, so it is a spoiler because I wouldn't have cried.
You also didn't even read anything about the book before starting it.
I know, but with the editor, I was just like, oh, whatever. So the spoiler was the family member. Anyway.
Okay, before we get into our thoughts on the book, we have some announcements.
Yes, I was getting to it. All right. So we have something bittersweet to announce. After 10 years, this is our 10th year as Booksplosion, and this is going to be our last year doing the Booksplosion Book Club, because we all love it, but we have lots of other projects that we're moving on to, and we can't prioritize it anymore the way we'd like to. So this is going to be our goodbye year to Booksplosion. And we're very excited to give it a proper send off, because we've loved spending all this time with y'all, and we appreciate your support so much over the years. So this is our second to last ever book of the month. Our last book of the month is going to be Chain of Thorns next month, and then every month after that we're going to do a Dear Booksplosion live show, and we're going to do look back episodes where we will do 2014, we'll do our favorite memories from that year, different stories, different trends that were going on that year. And we're going to do that for every year. We're not sure if we're going to do individual live shows or different discussions in between, but we'll figure it out as we go. So every month we're going to have a Dear Booksplosion live show that covers a nostalgic topic, discussions, stories, and yeah, December we'll have our last one, and it'll be a nice round decade. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? We've been doing this for a decade.
It's not quite a third of our lives, but it's like almost a third of our lives.
Yeah. I was thinking about it. It's all my 20s. Like I spent my whole 20s doing this, which is just crazy to think about.
Yeah. Like I was 23 when we first like formed the group.
Yeah.
And I'm turning 33 this year. So cray.
And then we want to give it a proper farewell. So we're closing out this year with one last book of the month. We had to do Cassie because we had to.
Obviously.
It's the third book in a trilogy. We've done so many Cassie books.
We've done all this trilogy too as a book of the month.
And all the last trilogy.
Did we do Queen of Air and Darkness?
No, that was the one that we didn't do because I haven't read that one yet. I haven't read it. So.
Jesse.
I can't believe you haven't read Queen of Air and Darkness.
Oh my gosh.
So the book of the month will be Chain of Thorns next month, Lexi. If you haven't read the other two, you've got some time.
I'm gonna be rereading them because all I remember is being like super pissed at the end of the last book.
If you want to watch my book talk for a shortcut, I do cover a lot of it. I rewatched it myself.
I want it fresh in my own brain.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't go through that again.
You've already read this, haven't you?
Oh yeah, I have. I've already made a very long book talk and then edited that book talk forever. So yeah, you have time to catch up, but it is Chain of Thorns. So it's the third one in this series, will be our last Book Explosion book of the month. And then we'll have Dear Book Explosion live shows where we talk about a topic that, and anyone can come hang out and watch and enjoy as we send off Book Explosion this year. But anyway, all right, let's get into the dead. Oh, Jesse has something. What's our other?
We didn't say our live show date for.
Oh, what is it?
April 2nd.
That's it!
Bless you.
Thank you.
Sunday. It's another Sunday, April 2nd, at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific, as per usual. And yeah, we'll be doing our last read-along discussion, and then we'll close out the year with some Dear Book Explosion live shows.
Yes. All right. Kat, Jesse, initial thoughts after reading The Dead Romantics.
I loved it. I really, really, really loved it. I feel like it just had everything that I like in a book. Like it talks about death. Yeah, exactly. But then also the romance, I enjoyed the romance as well. And maybe because it was more on the subtle side of things, but it worked. And I also appreciated the fact that this book was also not just about a romantic love. It was about self-love, about finding love for your family again, and where you come from and stuff like that. So yeah, I also just love Ashley Poston. I love her writing style. I love the Geekerella series. So yeah, 10 out of 10 from me.
I am almost right there with Jesse. I personally don't gravitate as much toward books that deal with grief and death and as a major theme. So that wasn't something that I particularly loved, but I did really enjoy the way it handled it. It wasn't a super heavy book. It dealt with grief a lot, but it was also in a sort of joyful way. Because her family owns a funeral home and she sees ghosts. She's been around death a lot. So it wasn't a scary thing. So I really enjoyed how it was a more lighthearted take on something that still dealt with a heavy topic like grief and losing a family member. I also really enjoyed the romance. I thought it was really cute. I'm such a sucker for a story about writers and writing and publishing, so I really loved that aspect of her character. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really cute and fun, and I also love Ashley's books, so when I went into this and I got exactly what I expected out of it, which was a good time.
I love Ashley as well, and I love Geekarella. I don't know if this just wasn't like my cup of tea in terms of like I don't really enjoy reading so much about grief. And like I don't know what it is about like ghosts in books, but I just like I saw a list. This was on a list. I saw it after I started reading it. I'm glad I started after reading. I saw it after I started reading it, but it was like compared to Just Like Heaven, that movie with Reese Witherspoon that's supposed to be a rom-com, but like I was so frustrated in that because she's a ghost in that movie, or he's a ghost in that movie. I can't remember. But like I just don't like them not being physically in the same plane. And I just didn't feel the chemistry so much with them. And I don't know if it's because they weren't like physically able, like I just knew that they couldn't physically touch, if that was like ruin it. But I just didn't feel it as much. I didn't feel like the dialogue, like it wasn't like sizzling for me with their back and forths. And I think it was really sweet and it was a cute book. I just like didn't love it like I wanted to.
See, I love that. I thought they had great chemistry, and I love that, like, we can't be together because we can't touch because you're dead kind of thing. Like, I love that kind of dynamic. It reminds me a lot of one of my all-time favorite TV shows, Pushing Daisies.
Pushing Daisies.
Where the two main characters can't touch or else she dies for real.
But like for me, there's more there because she is physical. She's like physically there in that show.
Yeah.
So it was always like you could kiss through cellophane.
I mean, I get that, but it didn't bother me at all with this. Like, I like that dynamic. Also, most of this book takes place over the course of like a week. So it wasn't like they had to go through their whole lives this way. And it was like so tragic and like, it didn't feel tragic at all. Also, I knew it was a romance and there's going to be a happy ending. So like, I wanted to see how we got that happy ending.
I guessed how we were getting it too.
Yes.
Yeah. So what was I going to say? Shit, I lost my train of thought. Whatever you had said before that.
Hopefully not something spoilery.
Let's move into spoilers.
I feel like we're on the line here anyways.
Yes. All right. So we're going to move into spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled for the Dead Romantics, please leave now. But our Chain of Thorns live show will be April 2nd. And then in the month after April, which is May, there will be Dear Book Explosions from every month after that. So we will keep you informed on the Twitter and the Instagram as to the dates of those. All right. Now, what were we talking about?
You were probably about to spoil something about how
he came back. Yeah.
No, I wasn't gonna spoil it. I just like I guessed it so early.
I didn't really guess it. I don't know why I did it.
I mean, I guessed it because I knew it was a romance and they were going to be together in the end. So like I figured he was probably in a coma or something. But I knew that going into it, so I wasn't expecting it to be a surprise. I was just waiting to see how it would unfold and like what would happen.
Yeah, I think my favorite character, I mean, my favorite like part of this was like the relationship between her and her dad. It really like made me emotional the whole time, every time we brought it up and stuff. And I don't know if it's because of the audiobook. Like I just didn't think that the guy, I don't know, I didn't like the way that they talked to each other. I wanted more sizzlies. When they finally had a sizzly scene, it was all the way at the end. I was like, why weren't we having this the whole time?
Because he was dead.
Yeah, he was dead then too. He was dead then too.
Oh my gosh.
His character, I mean, not his character. The moment at the end where she goes to the hospital and she doesn't go in bothered me so much. I was like, are you kidding?
Yeah, that was probably my least favorite part. Like, I'm glad it didn't take up much page time.
Right.
But that whole thing where like she didn't even talk to him, and then it's like 3-4 months later they have a conversation. I was so frustrated with that. But it only happened over like 2 pages, so I wasn't that
She
mad.
could have at least went in and just said a few words, like she heard he was, had gotten in an accident. He's her editor, and then she could have sussed out from that where he was.
There's also the element of she needed to
grow.
Yeah, she needed to finish the book, and
but she could have still done that, like if she just talked to him for a second and it didn't go well. It could have been like that. I was just like, how could you not even go in? How?
Yeah, I mean, I get why she didn't, because she ended up confronting douchebag X and punching him in the face, and like she saw his ex-fiance there, so like, and she was just coming down from like this, and there was the whole question of like, does he even remember? Like, real for him too, kind of thing.
But she could have said something.
Yes, I agree. I absolutely agree. They were both a little dumb with the miscommunication, but in an understandable way. Like it wasn't enough for me to like mark down.
I am so over after Chain of Thorns. I'm like, fuck miscommunications. I hate this.
Yeah, well, compared to Chain of Thorns, I'm sure this was nowhere near that.
It was nowhere near it. But now I've also read Chain of Thorns. It's like, never miscommunicate for more than a page.
Oh no.
Get ready.
I was already frustrated with book 2. So.
It's not as bad as book 2.
It's not as bad as book 2? Okay.
With the miscommunications, of course not, because we got to get them cleared. It's the last
book. It's not going to be as bad, but it's going to start in the bad because
yeah.
So we start off in a frustrating place, and then like eventually it'll work out.
But we have a nice balance of like Alistair and Thomas, and like cute things happening in between the frustrating miscommunication section.
Well, okay.
I was like living for Alistair and Thomas.
This book had like 2 pages of them being apart.
There were so many pages of no touching.
I'm okay with that though. That was the premise. The whole premise is he's a ghost and she's in love, and their relationship is tragic.
I was hoping when it started that because she was a ghostwriter, that's why it was called The Dead Romantic.
You didn't read the synopsis at all, did you?
No. I think I was talking to Robin and I told her I was going to read it, and she was like, oh yeah, her editor's dead. And I was like, no, I just started it. He's alive.
Oh my gosh.
So, okay, tell me your favorite parts.
I really liked just like seeing the family side of things, like her working out her relationship with her sister and stuff, and like how difficult that was. That was something that I really liked, because I feel like that's really hard on top of like dealing with grief, also like having to come back home and like having those like issues and like trying to work through them, but it being really hard to do so. So I liked that aspect a lot.
I loved the supernatural element of her and her dad being able to see ghosts, and I think it would be a really great prequel novel of like her as a teenager and having her adventures, because we get
detective.
He has like this beef with the sergeant, with the chief of police there, and like there's all these like she released a rabid possum in like the precinct, and she got in all of these adventures as a teenager, and like I think that would be a really fun thing to explore further. But I really loved that her book that like hardly anyone read and that didn't sell well enough for her to get like further book deals was his favorite book. Like I really love the whole reveal of Annie Nichols being his grandma, and she was dead when she hired the ghostwriter. Like I thought that was super fun. I really enjoyed that bit.
I liked that twist as well.
Mm-hmm. I did want to see. I wish that she could have taken credit for those 4 books somehow.
I know. I really like the twist that the woman that she was writing for was not alive anymore. I figured that she was related to him because the way he was talking about her was weird. But it was a nice twist that because she had talked about earlier that like she asked me to do it herself. Like,
I met her in person once because she's a total recluse.
Yeah, that was cute. How did you feel about the drama with like the high school people and how that was handled?
I'm fine. Like I feel like it was very realistic of like the teenage drama element of like she was a little bit bullied for being like the weird girl who claimed she talked to ghosts and stuff. And I liked the growth of that character later on. Of like she paid for the wildflowers and she like helped out at the end and like she was not being a total awful person. Also, I'm curious when she finds out at the end that her dad knew who she ghost wrote for and like had all the books that she was like the ghostwriter for, and it came out that like he told the whole town. So did the whole book club know the whole time that it was really her writing the Ann Nichols books for the last?
It sounded like they did. I don't know if like her high school people did, but it felt like
that's what I was thinking. Like there was at least some people who knew, but like I wanted the book club to find out because they were all like praising her books. They're like, she writes such great books. Like I buy them the instant that they come out.
Yeah. It felt like everyone who cared about her personally knew because her dad had told them. But yeah, and I like that her dad let her know that he knew. I feel like he tried to let her know that he knew before, and she just like wouldn't. It wasn't going through. But all right. So, what was your favorite character and least favorite character?
I don't know. I really liked the whole cast of characters.
Yeah. Who was your least favorite character, Christine?
Him.
No,
he's not my least. I was just kidding, but he just didn't wow me with the things he was saying to her that wowed her. But I really liked her family and all that. I don't think I didn't love like her friend character, the not friend character, Heather, I think her name was. So she'd probably be my least favorite. But my favorite is probably her dad. I was almost hoping that we got to see him more like as a ghost almost.
That's what I was thinking maybe that would come into play, but
yeah. I like because they did have this big thing in common and you would think he would say goodbye.
Yeah, I was waiting for that too. Like at least at his funeral, he planned such a great funeral. So, like, even if he didn't talk to her, but she just like saw him for a moment to like get that last like note of closure. I think that I would have enjoyed that.
Yeah, I liked. Something I really liked was she was talking about when she first met her editor. What is his name? Ben. When she first met Ben, she like remarked that he's probably the type of person that's like goes around reorganizing the bookshelves at like at a bookstore to like put things in the right place. And then she goes to the bookstore and she reorganizes the bookstore to put things in the right place. I was like, I see what you did there. And I liked the relationship she had with her brother. I kind of wish we got more with her sister since it felt like they had falling out, and they kind of fixed the things. But I feel like I could have gone for another scene or two with them.
Right.
I would have liked to know the siblings' ages because that wasn't really clear. So like I'm curious like how far apart in age they were.
Yeah. I think her sister was the youngest. And I got the impression that she's like in her early to mid 20s.
Well, our main character is 28.
Yeah, so I pictured her sister as being like 24.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's what I was confused about because I pictured them all rather close in age, like only like a year or two apart. But then she made references like she was like, they moved out of the funeral home into a separate house when she was 12, and she felt like she was the only one who like really grew up there. So that made me wonder if like her siblings were much younger to the point where like they wouldn't remember. Because if they were like 9 and 10, like that's old enough to like remember and be counted as growing up there. There's just a couple comments like that one where she was talking about how they went to the ice cream place when her mom was pregnant with her sister. And so it's like, so how old was she at that time? Like, what is the age difference here?
It was really disorienting with the audiobook because her sister, the audiobook narrator gave her sister the deepest voice. And it was like deeper than the male voices. And I was like, is she trying to do a stereotypical like gay woman's voice? Because it was so like jarring, because I thought she was doing a man's voice because it was like deeper than the brother's voice. So I was like, who's talking here? It was like, I feel like a bad decision because as it like when you're listening to the audio, it gets really confusing as to like who's talking, because she did this weird voice for the sister. But yeah, I don't know how I feel with the audiobook narrator. I'm thinking like it may have hurt my impression of the book.
I was gonna say, because when I was reading this, I had the thought like, oh, I bet Christine likes this. Like I was like, this feels like a book that Christine would like.
I'm actually surprised she didn't like it as much.
Yeah.
I mean, like I didn't hate it, you know, I just didn't like love it like I wanted to.
I was reading, I was like, this feels like a Christine book. Like Christine would like this. So I think the audiobook did damage your impression.
I have a question that like relates to the book. Would you guys ever ghostwrite if you were like asked to ghostwrite a book? Like, would you ever? Because I know you guys write a lot, obviously. So I'm just curious.
I don't know.
It depends on how the situation would work out. I mean, I've published fanfic anonymously, and that is like, it's not attached to me, so it feels a little like ghostwriting kind of. I mean, it would depend a lot on the situation. I wouldn't be against it. I would actually kind of find it refreshing to like be able to
write. I feel like you would like flourish ghostwriting.
I love
because it's like none of the pressure and you get to write.
Yeah, but at the same time, especially since she's writing for such a big name and she's doing so well, like I was also a little bit like, she should get some credit for this though. Like
yeah, well, like if you could ghostwrite and then like also write your own book on the side and then release them at the same time, but then you can use it to promote your book.
Look at what happened with her. Her first book didn't sell super well, but she's getting glowing reviews and hitting all the bestseller lists.
Well, now she's gonna write her own book though and try again, and this is gonna be great.
I hope it goes well. I hope she can get Ann Nichols to blurb her.
Oh my God! Wait, we have to talk about the boyfriend. Okay, this was actually like my favorite, least favorite. You know, it was like love to hate him sort of a thing. It was a really interesting dynamic because I wasn't expecting her to be like, yeah, we broke up because I told him about my life and then he fucking wrote about it and lied to me about what he was writing about. And I had to find it on his laptop. That was like the most compelling plot point here. I was like, I cannot believe this douchebag. And then
he's awful. He's the worst.
Yeah. And then I really wanted her to come out and like talk about how like he did that.
Expose him.
Those were the two things that I wanted to see more in the finale, is her getting credit for Ann Nichols' books. Somehow, like the estate could come out and be like, by the way, Ann Nichols died 5 years ago, and like she's had a ghostwriter ever since. Like I wanted a little bit of that, and I wanted him to have more of a comeuppance than just getting punched in the face once.
Yeah,
he got $1 million book deal. He's probably hitting bestseller lists.
Yeah,
pretentious gothic horror. When he wrote her idea, her life all wrong, when it really was like there was so much love in their family, and it was a love story with ghosts, and like about family love, and he turned it into something twisted and awful, and he should have been exposed. I wanted her to sue him or something.
Yeah. It's like it's one thing to like if he was writing about his own life and she was like in it. It's another thing to write her life. What the fuck does he think he's doing?
Yeah, and even if he didn't know it was her life, like she's telling
It was
him
her idea. Yeah, it was like her. She was like pitching it.
He's like, yeah, she's like, this is my story, and he stole her idea.
He is like such a douche opportunist.
I wanted the editor Ben. I wanted him to do something.
Me too.
Once he realized that, like, he could spread it around the publishing circles and take his reputation from the inside and just be like, you know, like I know for a fact it was based on her family and her story that he twisted, and like maybe maybe what he did wasn't illegal, like to the point where like he could get in like legal trouble for it because you can't like copyright ideas, whatever. But he could still have his reputation ruined in the publishing sphere.
Right.
Publishing Twitter would eat him alive. Like if this were happened in real life, something similar did happen in real life, and Twitter talked about nothing else for a week.
Lexi said every time she talked about writing romance while doubting true love, I was like, Christine just made a video about this. I was thinking that too. I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I like was talking about in my writing video. So it's so weird. But yeah, like stuff like that. Also, when like an author like takes like has my exact thoughts in that kind of way freaks me out and also like takes me out of the book. So this is all might have like made me like separate the book from myself a little bit, because the same thing happened when I was wait, what was the other thing that's happened when I was reading like Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating? Like Hazel was like too much like me to the point where I was like, I don't know, I gotta step back. Like with time I could be like, okay, I was just freaked out. But yeah, I was like, oh my God, I just went through the same thing. Okay, so the boyfriend, what would have y'all done if your significant other did this to you? How would you have reacted, and would you broken up on the spot? Like what would have happened?
I'm definitely broken up on the spot, especially with how he was so cavalier about it.
I know.
Also, we come from the outsider perspective, so like we can see that he's a douche from like almost the beginning, and like she doesn't have that perspective. Right. But I would definitely tell absolutely everyone that this was my idea and like spread that around and let gossip take him out.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would do. I mean, obviously break up with them right away, but I don't know what I would do like after that because I'm scared. I'd be too scared.
I in the moment, I feel like I would email it to myself first.
Yes.
Like, would I delete it? Like, like that's like a very Little Women move when she like throws the manuscript in the fire. Have you guys?
I haven't seen it, but I had that idea too. I was like, could she delete it? Like, is that guilty? Like, could she just take his laptop and go? And like,
could you break the laptop, or is it backed up in the fucking cloud, baby?
But also, you have to imagine that like he sent versions to people, so like there's probably at least some of it like in Drive or in email.
Okay. Unless it's the first draft.
It was after he had already sold it, so you would imagine that he would at least have the first like.
First, I feel like I would get sick right there. I'd be like, is this a joke? And then I would give him like such a lecture. And I don't know how long it didn't show like an argument, right? Just like she said she broke up with him after that.
There was like some references to like, there is a few lines of like the argument, but not like a whole scene of it.
I'm going to sue you.
It was him telling her like, you can still write your love story, your romance version of it. Like it's a different take on the premise, Bunny. It's fine.
Yeah, I don't know. It would be really hard. But like, yeah, we would end up breaking up. I'd be like, delete it or die. Or what you could do is scoop it, write your own book, and be like, this is the actual book and he stole it, and then like get all the newspapers and stuff to cover how he's a douche.
Yeah, but there's also the whole element of like she didn't actually intend to publish it because it was her life, not actually a story.
Yeah.
She was like sharing it with him like as a story because he wouldn't believe her otherwise.
Yeah, but like now it's all about killing his story because he's a meanie.
I wouldn't do the publish my own version route. I would do the gossip route. I would tell everyone I knew in publishing that he stole my idea, and even if she could say like her idea was based off her own life and point out that like her family owns a funeral home in a small town and like he ripped it off directly from her. Like, even from an objective point of view, from someone who doesn't know either of them, like, at the very least, it's obvious that he was influenced by her life story.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. What did you... So, you both knew going into it that the editor was going to die?
And that he was not going to stay dead.
I didn't know that part. That twist.
How did you think it was going to end?
I don't know. I thought maybe it was like not really a romance book and it was like marketed wrong or something. I don't know.
I went into this, so I was talking to Tessa at when I went to Heather's birthday, and she was like, I was telling her about Ninth House, and she was like, oh my God, she didn't like, I hadn't gotten to enough of it yet because I was like saying she could see ghosts, and she was like, does she fuck a ghost? And I was like, it's not a good thing when it happens. And she was like, oh. And so when I started reading this, I was like, this is a romance novel and he's dead. Maybe she is going to have sex with an actual ghost. And so I texted Tessa and I was like, I think I'm reading a book where she is going to have sex with a ghost. And I'll report back. And she doesn't have sex with the ghost. So sad times. I was waiting for it the whole time.
I mean, they compromise. They have a little moment.
They have a little moment where it's like they're talking. It's like phone sex for a second.
Basically.
But
I mean, they could. Would that have been better in your opinion, Christine, if they had more scenes like that?
Well, okay, if they had, that was the best scene. I feel like I didn't love the scene when they were actually like being sexy times at the end, because she said something about putting googly eyes on his like abs, and it was like, ew. I didn't like it. I was like, don't put googly eyes on his body. This is weird.
That would give you the ick.
It did. It gave me the ick. But I thought that scene was like, I was like, oh, this is finally getting sexy. And then like he disappeared the next day. But anyway, I was just like, maybe that also skewed it because I was like excited to be able to tell Tessa that I found a book where she has sex with a ghost. Like a happy. I was thinking that like maybe for a second I was like, oh, I wonder if like it would ever happen that she would die and they'd both be like ghosts in Ghostland together.
Then they can hook up as ghosts.
Yeah.
That's an update.
I never updated her because I was like, this is depressing. Update, he was never dead. Never mind. But anyway, I feel like, so Ashley's next book is called The 7-Year Slip, and I forget what the premise is, but I feel like
not like you would know it anyway.
Yeah, he wouldn't read it anyway.
I saw her one sentence premise on her Instagram post. Okay.
Did that spoil you?
No. I don't remember. I feel like I felt like, oh no, are they not going to be able to like touch each other again because they're 7 years apart?
Oh, it's that kind of story.
That's what it felt like to me when I read the one sentence synopsis, but I can't remember exactly what it was.
It takes place in publishing again. An overworked book publicist with a perfectly planned future hits a snag when she falls in love with her temporary roommate, only to discover he lives 7 years in the past.
Dun dun dun!
Did I just spoil everything?
No, I'm just trying to think. Is there like a time dimension warp in the apartment? Like, or does she? How does she?
I know, Christine, you probably would never watch an anime movie, but it sounds like it might be vaguely inspired by Your Name.
I was thinking The Lake House.
I mean, The Lake House as well. This isn't a wholly original premise of like the time slip thing of like two separate time and dimensions. But Your Name is the best anime movie ever. So
it's very good.
Everyone should watch it.
Yeah, the description spoils everything, so don't read it.
I mean, the title spoils everything.
True.
The 7-year slip?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it sounds like there's something happening, but I wouldn't know exactly what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't know exactly what it is until you had the one sentence synopsis of they're 7 years apart and like
yeah. And I'm like, oh, I don't want them to be apart. Stop.
And what is the conflict keeping them apart?
What? There's lots of other conflicts. What do you think? Every other non-time slip book. That's all right.
You don't like time slips. You don't like ghosts. What other conflicts can we have?
I just want them to be able to physically touch each other at the same time.
It sounds like they can do that in the time slip book.
Well, does it? Or does it sound like he's 7 years away?
I mean, it sounds like they're 7 years apart everywhere except the apartment where they're in. So, like,
I hope so. That would be cool if they're like in the same dimension in the apartment.
But then, like,
but in the lake house, they weren't. Like, they were 7 years apart. They had to like send each other letters in the fucking mailbox. The mailbox was like this time travel.
A little bit like that other popular novel. It's called The Flat Share, I think it was, where it's two people are living in the same apartment, but like one has days and one has nights because they're on like opposite work schedules. So like they share an apartment, but they don't actually like see each other, so they communicate via notes.
Interesting. Oh, we'll see, I guess, when it comes out. Have y'all been reading anything else lately?
Fanfic.
No books?
No, my brain can only handle fanfic.
I read a bunch of romance books recently.
Which one was your favorite?
This one. This one ranked really high on my list. It was like top of the list. But then I really liked Book Lovers by Emily Henry, which I know is like super popular. Actually,
because it's excellent. What?
It reminds me kind of this one. Like there's a lot of elements, except for like the ghost element, obviously.
I think the only thing that's similar is that they have to do with publishing.
No, there's like the grief with her mom, and then she also
her mom died a long time ago, so it's like a different kind.
It like has heavily affected her life because it was like only her.
Yeah. I just like
there's also this really relationship too, like even though it's a lot more positive in that book, but they're still working through like obstacles toward the end. So I don't know, they're similar in my mind, so whatever, it's fine. And I really like that book, so
yeah, I love that one.
You know what just made me mad again about the not communicating at the end of this book?
What?
Is that he was so upset that he was dead and he like lost his chance to like fall in love and like have a life. He was like, I'm only 36. Like,
they didn't do anything.
Yeah, they didn't do anything. Like,
yeah,
you got the second chance of life. Like, go get her.
I was like, why isn't he calling her? At least call her, hang out.
And I mean, even if it was all in his head and it was all a dream. Like, they still had that makeout session in the alley, like, before she left for the week.
I know, we could still call her.
Yeah.
I know. I feel like I would have woken up and been like, oh wait, I gotta like call that person and ask them out. Like,
yeah, like
why?
He came out of his coma and he has a fresh second chance at life, and you're gonna send her a polite email that says, "It was a pleasure working with you, Miss."
I know. Yeah. Anyway, all right. I'm reading Christina Lauren's new book, The True Love Experiment, that comes out in May. And it's about the lead character is a romance writer. We've met her in the Soulmate Equation. She's the best friend. And she's like out of inspiration, and she doesn't have a significant other, but now she's just like, she hasn't been able to like write a compelling anything in a while. And this producer who usually does like nature docs was asked to do a reality like romance dating show because the docs aren't doing that well and they need something to hit. And he's like thinks those are below him, but his wife loves romance novels, and her favorite author is Felicity Chen, Fizzy. And so he watches some interviews with her, and he's like, oh wow, she's really like compelling and like fun on camera. Like maybe I can get her to be like the Bachelorette basically. And then we can use the Soulmate app that gives you like a match based on science to put like 10 people in a house with her to fall in love. And she's like, I'll only do this if you do it my way. And she gives him a list of like different types of men to cast. And he's looking at it, he's like, what's a cinnamon roll have to do with casting? And it's like, cinnamon roll man, hot nerd. And it's got like all the cliche like archetypes for boys in romance novels. It's very funny so far.
Amazing.
Anyway, okay. Did we get anything in the chat here, Lexi? And when did you think, oh, I had a whole hallucination about being in love with that girl I kissed? I must really be into her. Yeah, I know. If you had a week-long hallucination with that person, it's like maybe this is something I should investigate.
Also, it's like so easy to verify. Like,
yeah, I know. Anyway, all right. Well, I think that's going to wrap up our Dead Romantics live show. But thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully you'll come to Chain of Thorns next month on April 2nd. And then, of course, we'll start our fun Booksplosion, Dear Booksplosion, reflection story, fun times, games. We've got lots of stuff planned, live shows. Make sure you're following us on Twitter and Instagram to get notifications of when those are. And we'll see you next month. Thanks, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.